Hi, I'm Betty. Welcome back to my kitchen. Today we're going to be making Greek Spanikopita, and we're going to be making them in an hors d'oeuvre size. I love to entertain, and I've discovered that a hostess's best friend is a freezer. These are a wonderful little morsel that can be made ahead of time and frozen, ready to be popped in the oven whenever guests appear. And the ingredients are these. We have some chopped onion, some eggs, some spinach, butter, feta cheese, farmer cheese, some fresh breadcrumbs. I'll be using some freshly grated nutmeg, and of course, phyllo dough. I've melted 2 tablespoons of butter in a medium-large fry pan, and now I'm going to add a medium chopped onion, chopped fairly fine. We're going to cook this just until it starts to turn golden, and that's going to take a few minutes. It's taken about 4 or 5 minutes, but you can see the onions are just starting to take on some color. So at this point, I'm going to add my spinach. This is a 10-ounce box of frozen chopped spinach, which I've thawed and squeezed to get as much moisture out of it as I possibly could. I'm going to add it to the onions, and we'll cook this for a few minutes just to make sure all the moisture evaporates. The spinach-onion mixture looks quite dry, and I'm going to turn off the heat and let it cool for just a moment or two before I start adding the rest of the ingredients. My spinach mixture has cooled down just a little. As you can see, I'm using a silicone spatula. I love these because they go right in the dishwasher, but certainly you can use a wooden spoon. Now I'm going to add the feta cheese, which I have crumbled. You certainly can buy it already crumbled. And this is farmer cheese. If you can't find farmer cheese, you can use a small curd cottage cheese. I'm using 8 ounces of each of these cheeses, but you'll see the recipe, of course, at the end. Give that a little mix, and now I've got 3 eggs, which I've lightly beaten. I'll give them a final little whisk. And we're going to add those. Stir these in. I'm adding a few grindings of freshly grated nutmeg. You can use a gadget like this, or simply use a whole nutmeg and grate it on a microplane grater. That works really well also. Some freshly ground black pepper. I'm not going to use any salt because feta cheese is very salty in itself, and I don't really think it needs any additional salt. Make sure that's well mixed. And I've got some freshly grated breadcrumbs here, and I'm going to add a few, about a 1/4 cup or so, and these will help absorb any errant moisture, because we don't want a soggy filling to ruin our crisp phyllo pastry. You can also see in the back I've got a small pot in which I've melted some butter, which we'll be using very soon. This still looks a little wet, so I'm actually going to add a little more of these breadcrumbs. That looks about right. And now we're ready to start filling the pastries. Phyllo dough comes frozen, and the most important thing to remember about it is it has to be defrosted overnight in the refrigerator. There's no rushing this process, otherwise it's going to turn gummy and be useless. So we're going to open one of the packages, and you'll see it's wrapped. And I'm just going to remove it from the wrapper and roll it right back up. Now my favorite way of doing this is to cut the roll of dough. I'm going to cut this in quarters. So down the middle, in the middle again, and again. And I'll be working with one roll at a time. So I'm going to take these others, put them back in the wrap, and fold them up to make sure they don't dry out. I don't need a damp towel or anything else. I'm just going to set these aside while I work with the first roll. All right, we're going to be using 2 strips of this pastry for each Spanakopita. And we lay one out, and I've got a wide pastry brush because this just makes it go that much faster. Oops. And that's perfectly all right. I'm just going to, stick that back together. And as you'll see, it'll be just fine. Brush it again. Oh, this little guy wants to really be messy. And we'll lay another one on top. Give that another little brush. All right, now we're going to take about a teaspoonful of this spinach cheese mixture, put it on the bottom of the pastry, and just fold it a little bit to get it enclosed. Now we're going to start doing what's called a flag fold. All you're going to do is go corner to corner all the way up. Fold the last little edge in. I've got a baking sheet here prepared with wax paper, and I'll give this guy a final little brush on the top of butter. Once I'm finished with these, this whole tray will go in the freezer, and once they're frozen, I'll transfer them to a plastic container. We'll do one more here. There, it was just that top piece that was a little crumbly. If you find you have a package that crumbles all over the place, take it back to the store because it means it wasn't handled properly. It means it was allowed to defrost at room temperature, and it got sticky, and then eventually it got crumbly. Good phyllo dough, when it's properly cared for, is really quite easy to work with. Again, the first couple of folds are not important, but as you go up, you want them to be nice and neat, just like so. Give that guy a little brush and put him on our baking sheet. I've got my oven set at 350 convection. Incidentally, this is a Breville Smart Oven, one of my Christmas presents, and I've got to tell you, I absolutely love it. With just 2 of us, I find many times this is all I need to cook the evening meal. So I'm only baking off 4 of these, but I just want to show you what they look like when they're cooked. They'll go in and they'll take about 7 to 10 minutes. Set my timer. Here are the finished Spanakopita. As you can see, they've puffed up slightly. The pastry is beautifully flaky, and I can assure you They are just as delicious as they look. Please enjoy these and check my website for other recipes.